Put that damn flag down, boy. This ain't your country to wave it around. The voice cracked like a whip across the crowded plaza. Heads turned, phones stilled in mid-air. The Memorial Day ceremony had been quiet until now. Officer Dunn. Heavy boots slammed against the pavement as he marched toward an elderly black man in a worn army jacket. The man stood motionless, clutching a neatly folded American flag. "You deaf," I said. "Put it down." Marcus Hill didn't flinch. His hands held the triangle with gentle precision, like it was something sacred. "It's my brother's," he said, voice steady. "Not anymore," Dunley growled. "This isn't a personal parade. Step back or you'll be escorted." He didn't move. He simply looked beyond the officer, toward a modest plaque surrounded by flowers and silence. One beat, then Dunley lunged. Without hesitation, Dunley ripped the flag from Marcus's grip. The fabric unraveled, its fold undone by force. Gasps rippled through the crowd. "No," Marcus whispered, reaching forward. Dunley's boot came down hard on the flag, on the memory it carried, on everything it symbolized. "This isn't for people like you to hijack." Dunley spat, grinding his heel into the stars. No one moved. No one spoke. Marcus's eyes didn't blink. He didn't yell. He didn't fight. Instead, he knelt, slowly, carefully. His knees pressed into the hot cement as his hands reached for what was left of the folded cloth. In the silence, you could hear a heartbeat, or maybe it was the crackling tension in the air. Parents pulled children back. A teenager started filming. Others just stared, stunned by the raw humiliation unfolding before them. Marcus didn't look up. He cradled the soiled flag like a wounded friend. "I bled for this country," Marcus said softly, not to Dunley, not to the crowd, but to the dirt-caked flag in his hands. His voice wasn't angry, it was hollow, carrying the weight of someone who'd been hurt in deeper ways than a public stomp. "I buried my brother with this flag," he added. That line hung in the air like smoke after a fire. Dunley froze, unsure how to respond. But Marcus didn't wait. He rose slowly, still holding the fabric, now creased and torn. His back was straight, his uniform faded but proud. And yet, he stood utterly alone. A woman in the crowd whispered, "Is someone recording this?" Another voice replied, "Already live, Facebook." More phones were lifted, but no one stepped forward. One man shuffled awkwardly, glancing at his son who clutched a mini flag. Others stared at their feet, their silence louder than the chaos. The plaza buzzed with fear and passivity, like everyone was waiting for someone else to act first. Dunley adjusted his belt, looking around. His confidence waned, just slightly, but not enough. Then another officer appeared behind Marcus. "Turn around." The second officer barked. Marcus didn't resist. But it didn't matter. In one swift motion, his arms were yanked back. Zip ties cut into his wrists. He winced but said nothing. "You're resisting," the officer muttered. Loud enough for the body cams to hear Ivan, though Marcus hadn't moved an inch. The crowd murmured, confused. On the ground now, Marcus breathed heavily, his face inches from the crushed flag. And still, not a single person stepped between the badge and the man who had once worn one overseas. Someone near the back whispered, "Wait, isn't that the guy who saved lives in Iraq?" Another voice followed. "Yeah, I remember the news story. Army medic, Fallujah." The words moved through the crowd like a current shifting the energy from hesitation to disbelief. And just like that, everything started to change. The medals never gathered dust. Marcus made sure of that. Silver Star, Bronze, Purple Heart, all mounted straight across the living room wall, just above an old black and white photo of two young soldiers saluting the camera. One of them was him, but the room was quiet now. Just him and the dog, same as every night. A knock never came. No neighbors stopped by. The silence wasn't peaceful, it was hollow. He poured a cup of black coffee, stared at the awards, and whispered, "Still here." That was the thing about surviving. The country remembered the wars, it forgot the warrior's Fallujah. 2004. Marcus had crawled through rubble with blood on his hands and bullets overhead. He pulled out 23 wounded men, one by one. "You're gonna make it." He used to say even if they weren't. They called him a hero back then. Gave him plaques. A handshake from a general. But when he got home, there were no handshakes left. The job interviews ended with "we'll call you." Banks said his credit wasn't enough. Even the VA gave him more paperwork than help. He didn't need praise. Just an opportunity. Instead, they gave him rejection letters. And long looks like he didn't belong in the suit he earned. Marcus used to wear his uniform on walks. Thought it might remind folks who he was. Didn't work. One neighbor locked her car door when he passed. Another clutched her purse tighter. A kid asked if he was safe. Didn't matter if the patches were real or if the boots had seen sand. In their eyes, he was just a black man in camouflage. Suspicious, not sacred. He started walking less, talking even less. Not out of fear, but from exhaustion. Because being invisible was safer than being a threat. He made one call to City Hall. One request: let me place a folded flag beside my brother's plaque during the ceremony. The clerk paused, then replied, "Sorry, you're not on the schedule." No explanation. No follow-up. The conversation ended like most things did, with nothing. He stared at the phone. Jaw thought his brother deserved more. They both did. So Marcus showed up anyway. Pressed uniform, polished boots, flag in hand. No camera crews. No microphone. Just a man standing for memory, still unaware that dignity was about to be trampled. Marcus walked into the precinct with a folder in one hand and purpose in the other. Behind the counter, Officer Dunley barely looked up. "You sellin' barbecue or something?" Marcus kept his tone level. "No, sir. I'm here to request a permit. Memorial ceremony. For my brother." Dunley finally raised his eyes, scanning Marcus's face like it didn't belong. Name: Marcus Hill. Date of discharge: 2009. Dunley leaned back in his chair, mouth curling. Criminal record: "No, sir." He chuckled. "So, no real reason to be out there then?" Marcus said nothing. The silence cut louder than words. The officer slid the form across the counter but didn't say a word. Asterisk. Marcus glanced at it, then back at Dunley. "Do I submit this to you?" "Nope. Just drop it in the box. Don't call, we'll reach out if it's important." The smirk returned, but colder this time. Marcus placed the paper gently in the slot, turned, and walked out. The door closed behind him, but the stench of disrespect lingered. 2 days later, Marcus returned to the memorial site. The small American flags he'd quietly planted along the edge. Gone. No wind, no rain, just ... missing. He scanned the area. Nothing in the trash. Nothing nearby. He didn't ask questions. He already knew the answer. It wasn't vandalism. It was precision. Erasure disguised as maintenance. He stood still for a moment, hands behind his back. Another silence. "This one is..." Louder. He was pumping gas when he heard it, from across the lot. Dunley was laughing with another officer. "Look at that costume," he jeered, pointing at Marcus's jacket. "Halloween came early." The other man chuckled, barely masking it. Marcus didn't react, didn't flinch, but inside, something burned. The uniform he wore had saved lives. Now, it was a punchline. The city's website listed the approved permits. Every name was there, dozens of veterans, but not Marcus Hill. No rejection email, no call. Just silence. He checked again and again. Nothing changed. Different wars, same fight. Corporal Jamal Reeves caught up to Marcus near the precinct. "I'm sorry, Mr. Hill. I tried pushing it up the chain. Captain told me to stay out of it. Marcus just nodded. Not your fault, son. But Jamal's eyes said everything. Regret, helplessness, shame. Even the uniform couldn't protect him from a system that chose silence over justice. Marcus sat on the edge of his bed that night, boots still on. It wasn't the rejection that hurt most. It was the familiarity, the deep, hollow ache that came not from bombs or bullets but from being unseen. The kind of pain that creeps in when the country you bled for won't even call your name. He wasn't on the schedule. No invite, no pass, no seat reserved. But Marcus showed up anyway, pressed uniform, polished boots, and a folded flag held gently in both hands. He stood quietly near the back of the Memorial Plaza. The crowd had grown. Families in lawn chairs, veterans in formation, media crews setting up along the railings. His eyes locked on the bronze plaque bearing his brother's name. They said no. They ignored his letters, his calls. But he wasn't here for them. He came for one thing, one promise. Let me lay the flag beside his name. He had said weeks ago, denied. But now, as the mayor neared the final lines of his speech, Marcus took one slow step forward. And let us never forget the sacrifices made by all those who served. ... Applause began, but Marcus moved toward the front and invited, unnoticed at first. A few heads turned, then more. His flag remained tightly folded, his posture straight. The program had ended, but his mission hadn't. And when he reached the edge of the stage, everything froze. The mayor glanced down, unsure whether to step back or intervene. Before either happened, a shadow blocked Marcus's path. Back off, Dunley barked, stepping directly in front of Marcus. You're not authorized to be here. Marcus didn't flinch. He didn't argue, didn't speak. He simply held the flag forward, an offering, his last act of service. Dunley glanced at the cameras and raised his voice. I said step back. You don't belong here. Murmurs rustled through the crowd. A few looked confused, a few uncomfortable. But Marcus remained still. Not out of defiance, out of duty. And that quiet refusal, it set fire to Dunley's pride. Without warning, Dunley yanked the flag from Marcus's hands. Don't try to hijack this moment, he sneered. Then dash, rip. The corners split, threads pulled apart like a wound reopening. Gasps shot through the air. A mother covered her child's eyes. Marcus blinked but didn't move. Dunley let the flag fall, crumpled and helpless at his boots, and then he stepped on it. One boot, full weight. This isn't for people like you, he spat. This is for heroes. That's when it hit everyone. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a message, and it was loud. Phones rose. A veteran in uniform tried to step forward, but was held back. A young woman clutched her purse, eyes wide, whispering, is this really happening? But Marcus still hadn't said a word. He just stared at what once draped his brother's casket, now flattened beneath a dirty soul. He's a veteran. You can't do that. Someone yelled from the crowd. Another voice echoed, get your damn foot off that flag. Phones were up now, rows of them. Flashlights blinked. The sound of shutters ticking like clocks counting down. But not everyone moved. Some turned away. Some stayed seated. A boy near the front clutched a tiny plastic flag and looked to his mother. She didn't speak, just shook her head slowly, eyes glassy. In that silence, something unspoken screamed. Marcus didn't ask for attention, but now he had the whole plaza watching, and none of them would forget what came next. Two officers closed in, on your knees, hands behind your back. Marcus didn't resist as he lowered himself. One officer zip-tied his wrists with quick, practiced motion. Another yanked him upward, then shoved him down again. His knees scraped concrete. His face dipped toward the soiled flag. A voice from the crowd cried, why are you arresting him? What did he do? No answer came. just the clatter of plastic restraints. A reporter whispered into her mic, "A decorated veteran has just been detained. We are live, ... Marcus kept his gaze low, not ashamed, not broken, just exhausted. The quiet humiliation of war never prepared him for this battlefield. The kind fought not with rifles, but with silence and skin, across the city. In a hotel room lined with scripts and stage lights, a man stood watching, his arms crossed, eyes locked on the screen. He didn't speak, just watched as Marcus Hill was dragged off, flag still in frame. His assistant stepped in. "Mr. Washington, they're ready for rehearsal." Denzel didn't move, his jaw clenched. Then finally, he turned. "Cancel it," he said. "I need to meet someone first." And just like that, everything began to change. "Who is this man?" That was a top comment under a clip that had already hit 2 million views. The video of Marcus Sweps kneeling beside his trampled flag was everywhere. Twitter, TikTok, Reddit. By morning, #flag for Marcus was trending worldwide. He served. They stomped. Read one headline. "It's not just a flag. It's a legacy," posted a veteran. TikTok creators stitched their own salutes. Black veterans shared similar stories of being erased in silence. And in the noise, one truth rose. Marcus wasn't a protester. He was a protector. What the system tried to bury, the internet unearthed. Not as rage porn. Not as a pity. But as a rallying cry. Marcus Hill, U.S. Army medic, Bronze Star recipient, 23 lives saved in Fallujah. Someone had done their homework. A viral thread broke it all down. His brother, killed by an IED. His refusal to leave wounded soldiers behind. His decorated record buried beneath years of neglect. Y'all stomped on his flag. One user commented, "The more they found, the louder the crowd grew." Marcus went from a silenced name to a symbol of forgotten black veterans, those who fought for freedom abroad, only to fight for dignity back home. Now, the world was paying attention, and the mask was slipping off the system that failed him. Corporal Reeves didn't mean to be the hero, but his body cam was still running. Footage, sophisticated, unfiltered. Dunley's voice, sharp and bitter. "Keep him off the stage. We're not giving that man a platform." And then the captain's voice, "Be smart. Cameras everywhere. Keep it clean, especially with that old guy." It wasn't just racism, it was premeditated humiliation. The video spread faster than the first. "You hear that?" users asked. They knew what they were doing. Reeves stayed quiet, but he didn't stop the truth. Now, there were receipts. And receipts burn hotter than outrage. Within hours, reporters swarmed City Hall. "Where is Officer Dunley now? Did the mayor know?" Calls for accountability flooded every inbox, voicemail, and livestream chat. A local protest swelled outside the precinct. Former soldiers held signs that read, "Service has no color and justice for Marcus." City officials stammered through press statements. The mayor called it an unfortunate misunderstanding. But the people weren't asking for clarification. They were demanding change. And the system, it was cracking under the weight of its own silence. The news anchor could barely hide her shock. Breaking Now actor and activist Denzel Washington, in town for a film, has publicly requested to meet Marcus Hill. On live television, the internet erupted again. Denzel knows what time it is. Within an hour, #salute with Denzel began trending. This wasn't just celebrity power. This was moral clarity. And for Marcus, a spotlight he never wanted, but desperately deserved. The camera panned across the packed stadium. Reporters lined the edge of the stage. Marcus walked in slowly, guided by Corporal Reeves. No handcuffs, no shame. He stopped at center stage. Denzel stepped forward. No handshake, no speech. Just a long, firm salute, military form, head high. No words were needed. Veterans across the stands rose, saluted in unison. Social feeds flooded again. This is what honor looks like. And for the first time in years, Marcus didn't feel invisible. He felt seen, not as a problem, but as a patriot. Denzel finally spoke. This man's service is greater than most will ever understand. America owes him a flag that can never be taken. The applause shook the ground. Not just for Marcus, but for every voice long silenced by uniform and skin. Effective immediately. Officer Dunley is placed on administrative leave. The chief muttered at a press conference flooded with reporters. But it didn't stop there. The internal review, pushed by viral outrage and undeniable footage, found excessive force, racial bias, and misconduct. By Friday, headlines read, "Officer officially charged in veteran assault case, no badge, no immunity," and for the first time in years, Marcus saw a system do what it rarely did, turn on its own. He thought he'd walk away clean, but the leaked body cam had his voice. On it, keep it clean, especially with that old guy. Under mounting heat, the police captain submitted his resignation. No apology, no press release, just silence, the same silence they once forced on Marcus. Weeks later, a new bill made the floor. The Marcus Hill Act. It promised federal protection for veterans at public memorials, especially those targeted for race or identity. His humiliation became our responsibility. One senator said, Marcus never asked for a law, but his story had become a blueprint, pain transformed into progress. A Navy honor guard stood straight, saluted, and handed Marcus a crisply folded flag. This one, the officer said, comes with respect. He walked to the hill behind the new monument, laid the flag next to his brother's plaque. His hand didn't tremble, this time, because this flag wasn't a symbol of silence. It was proof that dignity, though delayed, had finally returned. The granite was smooth, freshly carved, to those who fought for a country that didn't always fight for them. Marcus stood still, saluted once. Behind him, the wind carried whisper stories like his, long buried, now rising, and as cameras flashed, he said nothing, because the truth didn't need words anymore. You saw the crowd. Some shouted. Most just stood there, phones in hand, lips sealed. But if you had been there, right in front of Marcus, would you have spoken up, or stayed quiet like the rest? Does a man like Marcus need to earn respect again, after bleeding for a country that turned its back on him, or is it already owed? If this story shook something in you, say it. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like, subscribe, share. Let the world know heroes like Marcus exist. And they deserve more than silence. They deserve a voice, maybe yours.